pick it out an hour and I'll feed him when I get home, so. It's pretty straightforward, I think, yeah. I'm kidding. Crow's nest everywhere. Don't try to find your nose.
We ready? Guess we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. Today is August 8th, 2019. And roll call. Who's calling roll today? It's Sherry. Hi, Sherry.
Chair Akins?
Here.
Vice Chair Quinn?
Here.
Commissioners James?
Here.
McCready?
Yes.
Convery?
Yes.
McHatton?
Yes.
DePoit?
Here.
Great. If everybody could stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. What did I do with it? Gosh. I'm so lame. The museum representative report will be given by myself, but later in the meeting after I run out and get it out of the car, because it's with the last meeting I went to. Public communications. Members of the public wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card and file it with the secretary. Cards are available in the council chambers lobby. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the chair. Speakers should state their name and address for the record and must direct their comments to the chair, not the audience or press. While the Historic Preservation Commission is in session, members of the commission, city staff, and members of the audience are expected to maintain order and decorum and to obey the orders of the chair. Woohoo! Okay, consent items. We have minutes of July 11th, 2019 meeting.
I have a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Convery.
On page 3 of 5, Commission commented, it says, Commissioner McHatton spoke about Craig Walker's and recognized he has, Craig Walker's what? I think there's a word missing.
Where are we at?
It's right here.
Page
Oh,
3
3.
of 5.
Oh,
There's a word missing.
Oh, okay, so it's
oh.
Commissioner McHatton spoke about Craig Walker and recognized he has already, okay, got it.
Item number 4.
I actually thought it might have said Craig Walker's contributions or something like that, so I
Do you
guess,
remember, Gina?
yeah. So whatever works is fine.
Something.
Okay. This is under roll call. Museum liaison. He was not. He had retired by then. So cross Mark Lewis out.
Okay. And I have actually an addition
Okay.
to page, well, it'd be on page 4, but it's a continuing of the Lifetime Achievement Awards, which I guess this doesn't actually belong here. But someplace it should say that Commissioner Convery was to interview me, and I was to interview her, not for the Lifetime, but for the annual, correct. And so, anyway, and I don't care if it's in there, but I just thought I'd bring that up. And then I believe on page 5, in the 3rd paragraph, it said Commissioner McHatton wanted to confirm the commission's motion on item 2, and actually, I think that was me. So, on the 3rd paragraph.
Where?
Right here, on page, oh, this is the second one I have, this should be Quinn.
Oh.
And then, somewhere where we were talking about who's gonna do reports on who, it
Yeah,
didn't mention us doing any, yeah, it's, no problem.
Well, I think That may be covered when we get to the actual item talking about the awards. We'll see. The other thing I wanted to add at the top of page 4 or 5, it mentions Rose Boggs, Craig Walker, and Cricket Twitchell. The other person I had mentioned, and it's reflected when we get to that item number, was Pat Clark Dorner.
We didn't mention in this section, that's why it wasn't typed there,
Okay,
but it can be added. I'm repeating what was said.
okay. Yeah, who knows? Spaced out on that very section, but. Okay. Do we have the minutes? A motion to move as,
I move to approve
okay?
It's amended?
as amended.
And I second. Oh, no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sweet, moving on. Okay, item number 2. Staff report. Suzanne
Good afternoon, Chair. Is it Akins?
Akins.
We said it a few different ways, so I had to make sure I was saying it
That's
correctly.
something,
This is a work permit for some changes to a property located at 41 Terramina Lane. The work includes changes to windows, the doors, and a 13-square-foot coat closet that are visible from the public right-of-way. Anna, I can never say her name, Villicana Arroyo, wrote the report. You have noted that on the second page of the report, the references to the current code sections are incorrect. The city adopted an ordinance that became effective April 11th of 2019. It was just placed in the digital version of the municipal code just recently, so the copy of the text that was added in the staff report is the prior version. When it comes time, I can point you to the correct references in the current code. I believe you have those in your packet, or do you not have the entire?
No, I actually, I'll give it credit to Eagle Eye Elise over here, who pointed out the code sections were off. It took me a while to figure out what she was talking about.
Yes.
Now, when I referenced it, of course, they were different because, as you said, the code section had just been put up on the website, and that's where I
Correct.
went. And Elise had
Correct.
pointed out that they were correct on the website. So I just have copies. They're not copies that are in the packet.
Okay. If we need to get copies to the other commissioners, I have a copy here that we can make some quick photocopies. The changes are minor. There are some changes to the dimensions of the windows, partly because of manufacturing specifications. The applicant is here if you have further questions on the materials and the need to change sizes. They are colors and materials that have been found to be consistent with the Terramina Community Historic District guidelines that are contained in Ordinance 863, which adopted the district and the objects of record. The commission is required to review the project for a major work permit under the current ordinance because it does affect elements that are considered objects of record, such as the windows. The project has been found to be categorically exempt from environmental review, further environmental review under section 15301, which allows minor alterations to existing facilities. And with that, we can either turn it over to the applicant, or if the commission has questions, I can attempt to answer them to the best of my ability.
Is it time for speakers cards now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you, in preparing this work permit, were you working off the new ordinance, HPC ordinance, or the other?
I was not the one to prepare this report. So it appears that the staff report language does reference the old municipal code. I don't believe that it would have changed the outcome substantially.
It's not the third whereas on
We can't hear back here.
the, whoops, sorry.
What? Oh,
Sorry about that. The third whereas on attachment A, page 1, is also from the old
Correct.
ordinance. Okay.
I was just trying to get to that before the meeting to see what I needed to change. On page 2 of 7, which is at the very top of the page, paragraph 1, the italices, it starts with staff fines. That would obviously, if you chose to approve this project, have to be Historic Preservation Commission fines. Same with the second paragraph of bullet point 2. It starts staff fines, that would become Historic Preservation Commission fines if you agree with these findings and recommendations.
Great, thank you.
I will get copies of this if you want to take some questions.
Okay, so applicant, go for any comments from the public? The applicant, the architect, the,
I didn't submit a card.
nope, I didn't think anybody did, but I was looking for blue out there.
Yeah, sorry.
So,
my
yeah,
name is
go ahead.
Isaac Hendricks. I'm the architectural designer working on this project. The client is here as well. It's Aaron Looker. And yeah, we designed the house to, the majority of the project is all internal renovations, and we're just updating a few exterior windows and doors that are adjacent to the street. And we plan on repairing and renovating the historic lamp that's visible on the curbside of the property. And we're not changing the roof line, and we're trying to make sure that the house matches and complements the surrounding neighborhood as good as possible. We don't plan on painting the house. We're just going to do some stucco where this teeny little closet addition is, and but the texture will match the existing, and the paint was going to match what you see in the handouts. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. And then the owner, you're,
I just came to kind of,
okay.
this has been a process for me to, we're sort of in limbo, and I was interested to see what would happen.
I'm just letting people, kind of informing people of who's who in attendance, and our Terramina representative or interested party
They're coming.
is here.
As far as I know, there are no objections in the Terramina community to the plan.
Okay, great, thank you. So one thing I'd like to ask is added to our agenda, and it used to be on here and somehow it disappeared, maybe because we never do it or have reason to, and that is site visits. So we used to declare on whether we had visited the location.
And ex parte communications.
Yes. So has anyone visited the property?
I have visited the property and driven by.
Great. I have gently trespassed, gone up to the front, and seen that the interior is studs, and the rest of it looks intact. Information, though, I also got an email from John Lambert asking about this. I sent him a copy of what we had publicly that he received, and he is very much appreciative of the fact that this has come before the Historic Preservation Commission. I called earlier, I talked to Cheryl at the front desk, found out that this initially was applied for as a single permit, both to do the interior and the exterior. And true to things that are working, that permit was asked to be made into two parts, an interior permit and an exterior permit. The interior permit, I believe, has already been granted. And as I said, the work is taking place. Because as I looked through the windows, it was pretty much studs. The exterior, or the second permit, was the one that we're considering now in the Historic Preservation Commission. So, John was very appreciative, as you just expressed, the fact that the new procedures did work, that we are reviewing this, and so I will open it up to other comments by the commissioners. Yes.
I have driven by the property, as I said, and I've reviewed the materials. Everything does seem to comply with the TCHD, so I would just say I'm in favor of the project.
That would be the Terramina Historic Community District. THCD. I was like, Terramina
TCHD.
Paramount Community Historic District. Anyway, yes. I'll write it down some more. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Yes.
I think it looks, you know, in line, it's consistent with the ordinance, and I'm really happy it came before us, because 9 times out of 10 things don't, and really strange things happen out there. So this is nice to see something that's consistent, and it came before us. What a rare thing.
Great. Yes, Commissioner DePoy?
Maybe I didn't study it well enough, but I understand the windows and the doors are fine, but I'm not sure about the addition and how it follows the new ordinance or the historic district parameters.
It's a 19 square foot addition underneath the existing roof line. So they are not altering the object of record being the roof form by any shape. The windows and shutters, I don't know if this has shutters. I'd have to look again.
It does. It does.
Okay. And the other thing that I was going to double check is if they didn't have an operational lantern street light, they do need to have one that is operational by ordinance.
Oh.
863.
Seems-
Can I ask, do you have an operational, or do you plan to have an operational street lamp?
Mhm.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
actually
then it's
right.
noted
it's-
on the site plan?
It's right on the plan right here.
Is it?
And he just said it at the podium.
Missed that part. I wasn't looking at that
I
one.
wasn't in the
was
room, so.
Trespassing. Thank you.
And what happens is prior to building permit sign off is the contractor will block the photo cell that's on there to make it think that it's dark and make sure that it's actually on when they do the inspection. And if it doesn't work, they would issue a correction notice.
Great.
That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Mm. Nope.
Anybody want to make a motion that we go ahead and approve this?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application and the project as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Great.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair? Oh, are you
You.
doing-
As
I'm sorry.
noted with those changes to the conditions to correct the reference to the current code section criteria and to state that the historic preservation makes the findings instead of staff, correct?
Yes, thank you.
And the second is okay, too.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Sherry, could you call roll, please?
James, Commissioner James, McCready,
Yes?
Tombree,
Yes.
Quinn.
Yes.
Akins,
Yes.
McCatton.
Yes.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. My beautiful wife's going to come up and, thank you. Thank you, Connie. Okay, there we go.
Oh, did I take that out of order?
Fun.
Oh, no,
Okay.
it's minutes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Glad it worked.
Yeah, me too, thank you. We'll have a party when it's in.
Okay.
Sweet. Okay, item number three. Item number 3 is the annual 2019 Historic Preservation Award. I think the thing of, if you turn to page 2 of 2, you can see basically a rundown of what we're talking about. This is where I think it was talking about who was going to provide the brief bio. And so we know for Thais, you were going to get it from Cindy, and Cindy, you were going to get it from,
They've already been distributed.
yeah, no, I'm just confirming it so I can write it in here.
Correct.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
Would it be possible for us to consider giving 2 lifetime awards, or would that not be a good idea?
So about a week and a half ago, I met with James, Vega, who's our new city manager, and in preparing the agenda, and I asked him about those things, whether we can do multiple awards, and whether commissioners are eligible to receive the Historic Recognition Awards. And he was aware of no limitations, that it's basically up to the commission at that time to make those decisions and put them forth. There have been certain practices over the years on the recognitions that have taken place. You can see that in the prior handout that we got last month that shows who had received which awards in which years, and whether there were single individuals, whether there were no individuals, or whether there were multiple individuals. So again, James said, or City Manager Vegas said, that there are no restrictions that he is aware of. It's just primarily up to the commission and what they choose to do. Okay. Do you have a staff report on this?
I do not.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I thought I'd check.
Want me to go first?
Commissioner, Elise, did you have somebody that you were getting information for? Okay, then Commissioner McCatton, sure.
Okay, I think everybody has the handout. Okay, so
You're talking about Craig?
for Craig, somewhere in there.
There we go.
Okay. So Craig Walker is continuously bringing Ojai history to a local and national audience, all while having dedicated his life to educating our community. As an author, teacher, historian, and advocate, Craig has volunteered his time and knowledge to preserve, transform, and restore our town, and is often seen as the face of Ojai history. Over the course of his life, Craig has worked on all facets of historic preservation, making important contributions as a representative of city government, as an educator, and as a private citizen. As a history teacher at Nordhoff High School and now as a part-time administrator at Valley Oak Charter School, he educates and uplifts local youth, teaching them the importance of Ojai's past in relationship to its future. As one of the 3 co-authors of Ojai, A Postcard History, and author of Ojai by Design, and contributing author of the 3rd edition of the Ojai Valley and Illustrated History, Craig has made an important impact on our town's literature and written history. Notably, in Ojai by Design, Craig shed light on the significant individuals that have contributed to Ojai's architectural landscape, which included his father, architect Rodney Walker. From 2007, Craig has served as a volunteer historian at the Ojai Valley Museum, and since then, Craig has been involved in numerous important projects, including the acclaimed 2014 exhibit, Ethel Percy Andrus, How One Ojai Woman Changed America. In curating this exhibit, Craig helped to shed light on ARP's founder's life in Ojai and her contribution to society. Subsequently, in his book on Andrus, Craig brought her story to a national audience. Furthermore, in his capacity at the museum, he has been a contributor to many other projects, including working as a researcher for an exhibit about Edward Libby's transformation of Ojai called Inventing Ojai, and his most recent curated exhibit based on his book, Ojai by Design. As an appointed member of City of Ojai's Historic Preservation Commission, Craig has worked on numerous significant projects, and even after leaving this commission, he has been a consistent voice in helping to lead the HPC, volunteering his time and his knowledge to the ad hoc committee helping to restructure our historic preservation ordinance. So his well-researched contributions, whether on this side of the desk or the other, have been distinctly invaluable. But perhaps the people of this town will most be grateful to Craig for his leadership in reviving Ojai Day celebration in 1991 and his involvement with Ojai's Pergola and Arcade restoration projects as a visionary for the future while bringing culture, joy, and appreciation of the past into our present day. Ojai Day has become one of our most attended and celebrated events each year, acting as a staple of our town, an important encapsulation of everything that Ojai means to all of us. For these accomplishments, Craig received our prestigious award in its 2nd year. However, even outside of all of these official and volunteer capacities, Craig has often become the voice of Ojai history. When the Ojai Valley News needs a quick quote or an interview about our town's history, he's the one you'll see in the paper. When the owner of the theater needed an important voice when standing up against Golden State Water in court, it was Craig, who was there to defend our historic water-damaged theater. And even as recent as the historic report on the Ojai Theater, he was brought on because of his expertise in Ojai history and his attention to detail. There's just a handful of people in this town that have worked with the level of passion and conviction over the decades of service to this community that Craig has. As a son of a famed architect and through his countless achievements, his life, his family, and history are all intertwined in Ojai. And it's with that passion and devotion that I would like to recommend Craig Walker to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's see. We apparently didn't assign anyone for Cricket Twitchell. Pat Clark Dorner. Going left to right, let me go next. 4 pages going that way, 5 pages going that way. So again, this goes back to Elizabeth Rose and Deva Temple, who put together the From the Fire book. I brought this last time. I've looked through it in detail. One of the items that is in our list is oral histories. In going through the book, I counted this afternoon just exactly how many oral histories they had done. They started off with James Freihoff, the Ojai police chief, and went through a complete assortment. Again, they were focusing just on City of Ojai area people. They interviewed, well, they may have interviewed more, but there are 60 oral history interviews that are in here, and they went and typed out every single one of those. And so some or all of that has been included in this book. Again, 60 histories. I've done, working with my committee at the museum, about 45. I haven't typed any of them out, but you're happy to see them in video if you can. So that's a lot of work in typing them out. They included 209 photos that are throughout the book, as well as other things like small stories and poems. So again, they qualify, in my idea, under oral histories. That's what this is all about. It's captured a historic event in our valley. If we all remember, at the time of the Thomas Fire was the #1 fire historic in the state of California, all time. And again, so what I passed you around is last page in the book that has kind of a little bit of a bio on Elizabeth Rose and Deva Temple. Deva actually grew up in Ojai, now lives up in Oregon. Elizabeth now lives with her husband down towards the east end of the valley. Wonderful people. Books that were put out that were made available to different organizations, fundraisers that were done for different groups in doing this. And so I would just like to submit their name for consideration for the annual award. If anyone wants to look at the books, they're both here. Thank you. Okay. Thais,
Okay.
please.
Get my paper. Where's my paper?
Hopefully not at my house, making my wife run all the way back here again.
Thank you. I had it a minute ago.
Do you want a copy of one of these?
I got it, but,
Okay.
well, here, you have another one?
Is it-
I'll take it, and then she can have it as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Cindy Convery has been a resident of Ojai since 1992. Cindy is a California native who grew up in a preservation-oriented family. Cindy's mother restored several homes, including a 1920s Greek revival home located in California's Central Valley, which was furnished with local California treasures that have since made their way to her current home at 520 Foothill Road. In 1996, Cindy purchased the O.W. Robertson home, designed by architect Myron Hunt, located at 718 Foothill Road. After a complete historic restoration, Cindy submitted the home for Mills Act and landmark status. The O.W. Robertson home is now number 13 on Ojai's city landmark list. In 2014, Cindy purchased the Estelle Clark home designed by architect Austin Pierpont and located at 520 Foothill Road. During the restoration process, Cindy was beleaguered by various local ordinances that hindered the restoration of the property's original rock walls that connect to the historic rock walls of Ojai's Foothill Road, all the way up the street to the Libby House. Cindy spent a year and considerable investment in educating the city and community as to the history and value of preserving Ojai's historic walls in spite of city ordinance that were enacted without consideration for historic restoration and allowances. Fortunately, logic prevailed, And now Ojai's century-old rock walls are protected by the precedent that Cindy set during her odyssey in bringing Ojai's rock wall history to the forefront. Her documentation of the original rock walls in Ojai is now used by the City and Public Works Department as a reference material for public right-of-way allowances in further preserving this unique Ojai feature. This year, Cindy is submitting the Estelle Clark House for Mills Act and landmark status, her second home for consideration to Ojai's City Landmarks list. The Estelle Clark House was the last historic home constructed on Foothill Road and has marked the beginning of the Foothill Tract, as the original section of Foothill Road was known during the first half of the 20th century, since its construction in 1928. Cindy has served as a commissioner on the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Ojai since 2016. She has been a member of the Council for the National Trust for Historic Preservation in Washington, D.C. since 2010. Cindy worked with PBS and the National Trust for Historic Preservation to develop a television series called This Place Matters, about place in America and how our individual relationship to special places defines our communities.
I just want to add one personal thing to that. Cindy is a neighbor to was a neighbor to the Terry and Claire Hill, and I was at their house, and I heard that the O.W. Robertson house was either at that time or would soon be up for sale. And so I said, could you maybe contact her and see if myself and our photographer, Roger, could maybe come up and take pictures of the house before it is essentially no longer available for us to do so. And she not only opened her house to us, she gave us a tour. And when she had to go someplace, she said, just close the door on the way out. And so to see all of the work and all of the restoration that she did firsthand, and to be able to just be able to enjoy a historic house in that manner and in that way, and have it open to us by Cindy, by its owner, was just fabulous. And so, again, I appreciate that very much. You were very warm, very welcoming, and we were pretty much astounded, both with all of the work that you did and you're making it available to us. And so those photographs have been archived in the museum. Somehow, coincidentally, shortly after that, maybe a few weeks later, we did get a phone call from somebody in LA asking if we just happened to have any pictures of the home. And we said, don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, thank you.
May I ask a favor? As each one we're because I need to know what criteria for the resolution. And so I think I've looked at Craig Walker, looks like a number 4 and 6. So it's on the first page of the staff reports, the criteria, and the chart's on the second page.
Is it on the first page?
Right there.
Oh, I see down there at the bottom.
So,
okay.
So looking at our chart, Craig Walker's the top one, and so I thought of 4 and 6. If you don't agree, you tell me what Craig Walker falls, and then we'll go down to Cynthia.
Where is oral histories? Oh, there we are.
There's
Number
7
4.
criteria.
Okay.
I need one or 2 or 3 or 4, however many apply.
So Craig first, start with Gina.
Because it's the number 1 in this chart, so we'll go down this chart.
I agree with 4 and 6 for Craig.
Okay. Anybody opposed to that? Or have another one?
What does interpretation really mean of historic properties?
Writing a report, maybe? I don't know.
I know that he was instrumental into writing and being a part of.
Okay, so that's number 3 as well. We'll
Yeah,
put 3.
I would agree with that.
3, 4, and 6. Okay, then we can go to what was just read, Convery's.
And then one
Well-
more thing,
No, well, yeah.
Ross Boggs is listed twice here. So we only have to do her.
preservation.
Yes, she is. I'm not sure why.
Well, because Commissioner
Oh, this
DePoit
is-
nominated and then Akins nominated her.
Okay.
2 different nominations.
Oh, okay. I got it.
6 is grassroots.
But, so let's go now to Convery, that was just read. Sorry.
Okay.
And we already had number 4 listed for Elizabeth Rose and Diva Temple, who just
1,
we
5,
read.
and 6.
So Convery, I put 1 and 5 for Convery, if you agree or disagree or want to add.
I think we'd like to add 6. 6.
1 and 5 are okay? And then add 6, 1, 5, 6? Okay. And then we can move on, but we'll identify the criteria as we read the bios, I suppose. Okay.
So,
And do you agree with criteria 4 for Elizabeth and Deva? Or do you want to add any criteria for them?
I think number 4 is correct,
Okay, thank you.
unless anyone else has,
Sorry to interrupt, but you can,
nope, thank you. Cindy?
I have 2 reports to read.
Yes, please.
So we'll start with Rose Boggs for Lifetime Achievement. Rose was born in Ojai at her parents' home on Lion Street and is proud of her heritage, using her full name, Rose Chavez Boggs. Her academic degrees include a BA in History from UC Berkeley, teaching degree from UCLA, master's degree in early education at Azusa Pacific University, and Rose is a retired teacher. She was a champion tennis player and a volunteer at the Ojai Tennis Tournament for many years. And just an aside, for a woman to do these things when Rose did, she was one of the first to do everything I just listed. At 91 years old, she's been very active in Ojai. In addition to the tennis tournament, she's been a member of Historic Preservation Commission for 30 years and volunteers for the Ojai Valley Museum, where she leads tours. I don't know if she may have retired from this. This was taken from an article. So
Yeah,
she
she's no
led-
longer doing tours,
Yeah.
but she did for
We'll put it all in the
decades.
past tense then. She led historic tours in downtown Ojai. Quote, "I was born on Lion Street," she says. "That was before we had doctors here to deliver babies. My mother had 6 children, and only one was delivered by a doctor." Maybe she's the only home birth getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, I don't know. Her father was the caretaker of Libby Park, which is to Ojai what Central Park is to New York City. The forecourts at Libby Park, surrounded by well-maintained green bleachers that remain a desired destination for tournament players. All the big matches are there today as in the past. Boggs said she started to hang around Libby Park in 1939 when she was 5 and fell in love with the game of tennis. She remembers tournaments even back then when tickets were purchased at the park entrance and a band of Boy Scouts patrolled the fences to catch anyone trying to sneak in. She played in the tournament until she was 70. She was number 1 on Cal Berkeley's women's club team because women didn't compete in college sports in those days. My partner and I live in the Ojai against, my partner and I played in the Ojai against Billie Jean King in doubles one year, Boggs says. I poached on her on the first point and got it, then we lost, of course. She remains a loyal Cal Bear to this day and says that it even carried over somewhat unethically to her duties as one of the many longtime officiating volunteers. Well, most of this seems to be about tennis, which is where I took all of her information from the articles that I found about her. I wasn't able to get a hold of her, but she did serve on the commission for 30 years. She was instrumental on the flags that for the Ojai Music Festival, very adamant about color and dialing down what happens in the arcade, which could have gone to the extreme as far as advertising. So I do have to give her a lot of credit for that. And she did contribute a solid 91 years to preservation in Ojai, which might be a record. So, protection of historic and prehistoric archaeological sites, is that, or interpretation of properties? What do you think? Grassroots efforts?
3, 4,
6? Is she a grassroots person?
well, the commission she was on for 30 years was grassroots when it became. So
You guys decide.
I'd grant that.
Okay.
I mean, they basically stole it away from the county, so.
Okay.
3, 4, 6? Does that sound good,
Sounds
Cindy?
good to me.
Okay.
And my second report is for Thais, Commissioner Quinn. Thais Quinn, along with her husband Bob, moved to Ojai in April of 2009. Her move to Ojai became serendipitous when she saw the picture of her future home in an Ojai real estate magazine that a friend brought her after the friend's visit to Ojai. Although Thais had been looking to make a move, Ojai was not on the radar until the magazine fell open to the picture of the living room at 701 Foothill Road. Both Thais and Bob agreed that this was the home they had been looking for and soon became the happy owners of the house locals call Kathy's Oaks, which was designed by George Washington Smith and built by Edward Libby as a spec house in 1922. Thais immediately saw the need to preserve this special house and protect it from future development. She applied for and received landmark status, including the Mills Act. Spec House A is now Ojai Landmark number 16, and with the city's help will remain a tribute to Ojai's past. Often while Thais and Bob walked through downtown Ojai, they were drawn to the duplex at 307 East Aliso. It needed a lot of work, but they could see the potential of giving it a new lease on life. One day as they walked past, they almost tripped over the real estate sign offering the property for sale. They whipped out their cell phone and made an offer to purchase. After several go-rounds, the duplex was theirs. Again, Thais asked the city to landmark a property that deserved to be protected. This duplex was built with timber, adobe bricks, River of Life doors, and clay roof tiles salvaged from the Thomas Aquinas Church, which is now the museum. Somewhat unbelievably, this property has retained most of its original character and all of its original charm. 307 Aliso is now landmark number 22 and will continue to speak to Ojai's storied past to walkers and farmers market goers. Thais has served on the Historic Preservation Commission as a commissioner since 2016 and continues to be on the lookout for her next project. So, preservation of historic resources and design and planning efforts to preserve number 1 and number 5. Are those correct?
I think so.
Oh, there we go.
Is that it?
So I believe that's all the reports we have on the individuals. Again, we've mentioned we didn't have reports on Cricket Twitchell, nor on Pat Clark Dorner. Sorry, we failed to get that assigned. They are both worthy individuals. They were being considered for the Lifetime Achievement. And I'll just leave it at that. So, input from the commissioners? Other comments, questions, observations?
Can we put a note that those names pop up next year at this time, so you make sure they get recognition?
I will tell you that I had 4 people in mind, well, 3 people in mind, and as long as I'm here, they'll be here. But I think, I don't know how you do that. How you, Sherry, can we just put that? I mean, they're on the list, so they know they were yeah, just somewhere where we can commend them and recommend them for future HBC consideration. I think that would be great.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Commissioner McCatton, you did a great report on Craig, and he's, invaluable guy. My only concern with Rose Boggs is her age and that she won't be available, for a future award. And that maybe speaks to 2 awards or whatever the decision comes down to. That's just a consideration I have.
If like we said, there is no limit on it, which is nice to know. I did not interview Craig because I didn't want to do that. I just researched him myself. And I don't know how much he's shared with you, but I know that one of the reasons why he left this was problems that he has had with his health. And I know age is a consideration, but that scare with Craig alone made me think that I want him to be acknowledged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so similar concerns.
So, again, yes. So, again, to replay conversation with City Manager Vega, who's also acting as our Community Development Director at the moment. The only limitations on the awards are, well, again, we make a recommendation to the City Council, so it will be entirely up to them, the end point, but any limitations appear to solely be based on ourselves. I will say that, did you want to say something, Elise? I will say I've known Craig for a long time, both on the museum board and on the being a fellow commissioner on the HPC, being around him for different things. I think I may have told someone I was going through applications that we had received for our executive director for the museum 9 years ago when we first hired a person there. And I happened to pull up Craig's and looked at that and was amazed at all of the contributions he had. I know he's been very, very, very involved in the community in many ways, but that was just a reminder to me. So, what would folks like to do? I do lean towards recognizing Rose because she was very involved. A little note on rock walls. When a neighbor up the street came to you and was looking for increasing the height on his rock wall, she, in straightforward Rose Boggs manner, said, "Sir, you need to sell your house and go back to Los Angeles."
Yeah.
I'm sure he's still got to laugh about that too, but that's true Rose Boggs fashion. So
I didn't interview her personally because I didn't want to bring up the issue of the award and make it I
yeah,
didn't feel comfortable with that. So I was only able
that's why
to
that's
find
there too.
what I had online.
Yeah.
So there's, that's a challenge. But she helped me with the rock walls a lot. She went to bat for me in a big
Mhm.
way. And she's very Ojai. She's one of the last of the breed.
She is.
Was Rose a charter member of the Historic Preservation Commission? I think
Yes.
so.
Yeah, she was.
I should have interviewed Terry. He would have known. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Sherry had given me a history that Pat Clark Dorner had done on the founding of the Historic Preservation, which was Cultural Resources, I think, or something like that back then. It was rather interesting because there was a major battle going on between the city council and their new commission, and the commissioners basically went on strike to show the displeasure with one of the council decrees, going all the way back to its founding. Cultural Heritage Board. Yes, Elise.
So does the commission want to rule out giving 2 lifetime awards? Not necessarily.
No, I'm actually leaning toward Craig and Rose together. They'd served together. They've known each other for years. They were both born here. I think Craig was born here. So it's kind of a nice fit to have them get lifetime achievements.
Actually, he might have been born in L.A. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
my
for a
impression
minute,
is
but he
as a
grew
child.
up.
He grew up.
Yeah, and they know each other. They work together for so long. I think it might be complimentary to have them both get a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah. Just one other thing I want to add. You mentioned it. The AARP exhibit that the museum did, it was, I think, because of their 50th anniversary or, a large anniversary. The exhibit was so nice that the AARP actually purchased that exhibit, which was a nice chunk of change that went into the museum's coffers. So they purchased that to go as a traveling exhibit to talk about the AARP. And for folks that haven't been paying attention, yes, AARP was founded here, and the attorney who did that is still alive, and we've done an oral history interview with him. So, other comments, motion? Let's do a motion on the lifetime achievement first.
I'd like to make a
Good.
motion on the Lifetime Achievement Award that we award both to Craig Walker and to Rose Boggs.
I'll second it.
Any further comment? I forget that section. Sherry, could you call roll, please?
Commissioners James? Yes. Convery?
Yes.
McCready?
Yes.
Quinn?
Yes?
Akins?
Yes.
McHatton?
Yes.
Hoyt?
Yes.
Motion
Great, thank you.
passes. Good.
So the next step on that is to, depending upon the length of your document, it needs to be pared down a little because generally it is read in the council meeting in the
Well-
first week of December.
The bio will go in the resolution.
Right.
And then we pare it down for the mayor when the presentation. We don't need to pare it down for the
Great.
reso.
Thank you, Sherry.
I have a question about the bio. It's rewritten after the award has been decided, because I helped Terry Hill with his bio after it was decided he would get an award. I mean, it wasn't the bio that we,
It was the text for the presentation, because
Yeah.
that was going through an
Yeah,
iterative process.
it's just a
yeah,
condensed version,
to get
the
the
mayor-
correct info, because we're, you know.
but
I
it's
was
from
winging
the
it.
bio, the condensed version.
Claire and Terry, well, Claire rewrote a whole bio for, anyway, I don't know.
Yes, she
So,
did.
yeah, so,
When I did Dawn Teeting last year, I just, for this purpose, at this stage, I pieced it together. But then when I went to write the bio, I actually consulted with her and
Yeah.
rewrote it.
Yeah.
After she was.
After
sure-
this
yeah,
vote.
after the
Yeah.
vote, right, okay. So we can talk to Rose.
Right.
okay, so let's consider the annual awards, please.
I would just like to, it's obvious that Thais and Cynthia are deserving of a award. I still, inside myself, I still question whether, I know it's the city giving the award, not the HPC. We're just recommending, is that correct?
We make a recommendation, even the text is a recommendation, the mayor can change it however he wants to.
It just kind of there's something inside that makes me feel it's kind of weird for a body to give themselves, somebody on a body to give themselves an award. I'm not saying that you don't deserve it. It's just the way I feel. And to me, it's this body recognizing we're recognizing somebody out in the community who's done something, that wasn't required of them, and I don't know. That's something the way I feel. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioners have Terry got the award when he was a commissioner, and I think Craig got it when he was a commissioner.
No, Craig was
Oh,
in
Terry
1992 when we started this.
Oh, before?
91.
Mhm.
Oh, I think maybe Terry might have been the only one, Terry Hill.
Rose received it too when she was on the commission.
Oh, well, there you go.
I would just like to say, and I'm not begging for an award for anything I did, because that's not why I did it. But the first house that I preserved through landmark status, I was not on the commission at the time, and nobody asked me to do it. It was just something I wanted to do. And when Cindy did her house, the same thing, she was not on the commission at the time. So I think the fact that when I did my second house, I was not on the commission either, as I now remember. And actually, one of the reasons that I wanted to be on the commission was because I thought I could streamline the process a little bit after what I'd gone through on 2 of my houses trying to preserve them. So, whether I get an award or not, it doesn't matter. I did what I wanted to do, and I'm glad that I did it. But I don't think there's anyone else in Ojai that's ever preserved 2 properties, and Cindy will have done 2 of them by the end of this year. So I'm just speaking to that. And again, give the award to whoever you want, that's fine.
I wonder why
Go to Commissioner McCatton.
Hi.
Commissioner McCatton, please.
So I've been back and forth thinking about that because I don't know how the optics are with it. So I know that you're both deserving of it, but yeah, I do struggle with it just from the optics, from a social standpoint of giving our members awards. But I do think you're deserving of it. The other question I had is about the fire book.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to decipher what exactly is the Historic Preservation Commission. Are we a structure-oriented commission, or are we a history of Ojai commission? Because that is definitely the history of Ojai. This is something that is going to be part of our history books now for our Ojai history. But I wasn't sure what this commission. Is it? We're a historic commission. We're for Ojai history, not just for structures, correct? And we have our list that we're always trying to protect actual structures, but we are also trying to share the history of Ojai as the historic commission. So that just seems really important to me. If we're not a structure-based commission, that we acknowledge that history, because that is history that I would have loved to have been able to read about the one that happened 100 years ago from that and have what the residents felt and what they went through and what it felt like when the fire was coming. And to have that and to have that part of our history, I think is really important. But if it's more arts commission, because it's not set to a structure, but if that's what I was just kind of thinking about that in my head about all of the different awards. So
let me give you an example. So a number of years ago, we decided to award the annual award to Pat Weinberger. And so after we did that, I talked to several people that also knew Pat Weinberger and getting, even beforehand, and getting the history. And for a long time after that, and so we ended up giving the award to Pat Weinberger. It was presented. I was actually in Sedona on vacation with my wife, getting daily updates from David Mason. They went and presented the award to Pat Weinberger in the care facility she was in, and I believe the next day she passed away. And the reason people said, well, why are you representing Pat Weinberger? What historic structure did she protect? And we explained to her that she didn't protect a historic structure, she protected the Ojai Valley. And, without Pat Weinberger and all of the efforts that she did, the Ojai Valley would not have been what it is now to be able to save and to preserve. And so after we shared that with them, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. But at first, you're right, it didn't make sense to them. From the history book, again, one of our criteria is doing oral histories. They went out, and you can read through those, you can see the wide variety. As I said, as part of the museum since 2012 with a committee, now down to one person, myself, we've gone out and done 45 oral histories. I think 8 of those people have now died. And they have a keen insight into something that we may never see because, of course, we weren't there experiencing it. So, and the same is true when you read through, what these people were going through as they looked out the window and saw everything around them on fire.
There's no question that's
Yeah,
Ojai
so-
history.
But yes, I didn't contact them. This is a page from the back, but that kind of gives you the comparisons of what I've seen over the years. Yes, Commissioner DuPoint?
And last year, Dawn Teeting, that was slightly off the mark a bit. She did all that work on cultural resources, so,
That's what I was going to bring up. If it was something with Chumash and it was something that was an area or a land, it wouldn't necessarily be tied to a structure, but it would also be historic preservation. So it doesn't have to be a building.
right.
Yeah, cultural preservation. And the other thing, again, going back on the different things on whether to recognize ourselves. I've thought about that. To me, there is, to build on what Commissioner Quinn said, they have restored, landmarked 2 properties, soon to be 2 on Cindy's, but they've also, rather than participating from outside, they have joined the commission and been fabulous contributors and brought to us the keen insight that comes from actually going through the process and interacting with the community, interacting with the commission. And there is just, a knowledge that only comes from participating and doing some things. So to me, instead of their being on the commission being an exclusionary faction or factor, to me it's an inclusionary factor because they have brought their wealth of knowledge onto our commission.
Commissioner McCatton, you said something interesting about the fire book, about the Arts Commission. And Brian, you mentioned that there's poetry and new photography. I mean, it does feel very much like an Ojai art project. And that's kind of where I was coming to it from that it, it's almost, I mean, I don't know what the various acknowledgments are, but it, treasures of living treasures and that kind of thing that go on in town. But it does feel like an art project to me, an art book. because of the poetry and because of the photography and the layout and, you know, the understanding. It's kind of a hybrid.
Well, you could say that any architecture book's going to be filled with maybe
But
letters.
it's not
that
an
have-
architecture book.
I'm saying if, let's see,
Oh, I thought
it
you
was
said
an architecture
architecture,
book.
yeah.
It's going to have poetry and it's going to have, you know, it could have letters from the owners. It could have, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, plaques that have sayings that are from somebody who's important to them. It's still going to be history, and it's still going to be architecture history. It's weird. It is,
Yeah.
you know, we've talked about working together with the Arts Commission on other things, bringing the commissions together for the murals at some point when, you know, I know it's probably too late for this year, but it would have been nice if it was a joint thing, but it's probably past that time to bring
Thank-
that up now.
Of course.
I guess when I'm thinking about this book, I'm thinking several years ago, I nominated Terry Talent, who's written a book called Making the Riata, on the whole history of the Ojai Valley with Governor Tico living here and the Chumash Indians, and when the missions came in and the mission in Ventura was built and so on. And it was pretty much rejected as not really contributing in the way that the commission wanted the contributors to be, rather than just telling the history. So I kind of am looking at that the same way I'm looking at this book. This is only one incident in the whole history of Ojai, whereas the Terry Talent book was the history for many, 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 many years, and the beginning of how Ojai came to be when the aqueduct was built and so on. So I'm still not convinced. I'm just going to say that.
Okay. Commissioner Convery, so I went around taking pictures. I mean, I have a couple pictures in here. I took pictures of all the firefighter signs, the thank you signs from Casita Springs all the way up to the plaza. I thought I could do it in 40 minutes. 2.5 hours later, I was still shooting pictures. So my focus was on the signs. But then when I started going through it and looking at all the different individuals that are their stories told, and then counting them to see that there were 60 people that were contacted, and in talking with them when they were putting the book together to find out that they were transcribing every single interview. I said, "Did you use any software?" She said, "Nope, just typed it up." And making that the typed up copies available to the museum for our archives. I think that's kind of what moved me over to the oral history side instead of just the photography side. Because when I brought the books last time, I was leaning more on the photography side because that's where my focus had been. So, just a thought.
Okay, I just, oh my God, I'm sorry. So maybe I'm going to just say, maybe I'm a little bit judging on my own experience, and maybe I should recuse myself on this vote because I never left Ojai during the fire. I stayed here. I watched flames from my living room. I will never look at that book. And I won't look at it, even though it all happened. It's way too real for me to look at it. So I would be happy to recuse myself from a vote on the book because when you're here, I mean, we never left. All of our neighbors were gone. We were the only people there. And we were helping the police because people wanted to come into our area and so on. It was quite the experience. And I don't need to look at a book about it. So there.
Too emotional.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're recommending an award for this past year, and it's the city that's going to be giving the award. And the city and the fire, the police, all the emergency people, all the council members, the mayor, everyone in town was so impacted by this fire event, and these people put this all together for the whole community, and they took it around, and they had events around the book where people could talk about what happened to themselves, and it was, I just think it'd be appropriate for the city to give these people an award for what they did for the city. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, thank you, yes.
I mean, we're all going to be gone one day, just like the people who went through the one 100 years ago. And just like I said, I wish we had a book 100 years ago. It won't be close, it won't be relevant, it won't have us all have PTSD looking at it. But it would have been nice to have had that from 100 years ago. We're not doing this for us, we're doing this for the future of Ojai. So.
Right, and I'm not arguing against the book from my point of view. I'm just saying, I just suddenly realized that I might have a prejudice against it, and that I should probably recuse myself. So I'm not using my experience as a reason not to give it an award, so.
But that's what's interesting to me. I do feel like it's a living treasure, more than historic preservation, you know, because it's not just preserving historic preservation is mostly about place, primarily about place. And I find that book to be more experiential and artistic and poetic and experiential, and, you know, on many, it's just more complex. So I really see it as a living treasure that was created, that they're that people. I don't know why it feels that way. That almost feels more just descriptive of what that book is.
I will just point out, maybe I should recuse myself. I'm not the art side of the family. The art side of the family is the one that does all the paintings, is the one who brought me the books. But thank you for that. A lot of experiences that came out of those days. Of course.
Okay, so I agree with Commissioner Convery. I'm not saying the book has no value or anything, but I'm wondering if we could make a recommendation to the council that it not to for the historic award, but rather for, like she said, the Living Treasure Award, to make a recommendation that it be considered. Because I agree that it has great value for the future, and it's just I'm having trouble with it in this venue.
My battery wore out.
It is a great inspiration to people, and that, you know, sometimes we focus too much on the physical, and maybe it's been, you know, good to focus on the spirit as well. So I agree with you too.
But we're talking about historic preservation.
What's historic preservation?
Spiritual?
Spiritual.
I got lost, I'm lost,
Okay,
sorry.
that's all right.
The museum recently in one of their shows did a retrospective back on the historic fires of Ojai, and I think counting this, there are 4 of them in the last 3.
I think there were more
Big fires, the big fires that we covered in the exhibit. Yeah, so.
Just, so it's historical, it's showing a community coming together, you know, in that way, so that's, I think it's a really
They
good inspiration.
documented history.
It's documented. And it's inspirational to people.
Thank you all for sharing. Very, very thorough, very in-depth. So do we have how would you like to do this? Do you want to do this one by one? Piecemeal? I mean, I don't usually try to jump out and do a motion, but just to get it started, I would like to move that we nominate to the City Council Cindy Convery and Thais Quinn as two of our annual Historic Preservation Award recipients. Not that I'm proposing that we limit to just those 2, but I do think those 2 are worthy of recognition by our Historic Preservation Commission.
Because I think it's probably a pretty small club that has landmarked 2 buildings and serves on this commission and ad hoc committees and puts up with this every month, I would second.
Okay.
You would what?
Do we have any further discussion on that motion? Sherry?
Commissioner James? Yes or no? Do you support the motion?
Can I support more than one person?
Well, right now, the
We're just
the
doing this
on the
motion right
table
now. It's not limited just to that. Yeah, just that.
To
Yes.
okay, McCready,
Yes.
Convery,
Do I need to recuse myself?
No.
Okay, yes.
Quinn,
Well, then, yes.
Akins,
Yes.
McCatton,
Yes.
DePoit.
No financial.
No.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Other motions that people would like to make?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Elizabeth Rose and Diva Temple for annual award.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Sherry?
Commissioner James,
Yes.
McCready,
No.
Convery,
No.
Quinn,
No.
Akins,
Yes.
McCatton,
Yes.
and DePoit.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
We need to make sure we know how to pronounce her name. Diva or Deva or Deva. Oh, you know that?
Anyway, thank you all. That was great. Moving on to item number 4, discuss historic sites of merit list. Suzanne, do you have a staff report on this?
Just briefly, we're asking you to review, discuss, and consider a recommendation to City Council. As you know, the ordinance changed, it added definitions for structures of merit. You had a previous structure of merit list of 37 properties back in 2013. It was recommended to City Council for adoption, which did not move forward at that time. Elise DePoit provided a new list that's attached as attachment B to the report, and recommended some updates to the structure of merit list. And with that,
Great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You did it so fast.
I'm not sure. Why is this in the packet?
because you made a recommendation to update the historic structure of merit list in the previous effort in 2013, did not move forward, and with the recent adoption of the historic preservation ordinance that became
Right.
effective this year, it does have the definition of historic structure of merit and a process to nominate and forward that to council.
Great, thank you very much. Suzanne, Sherry, do you know who did the spreadsheet?
I did.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to get it recognized. So a couple different things. At an earlier meeting, I believe these were included in an earlier meeting. Elise had emailed them to me. So what I passed out to you were 6 different proposed additions that Elise has to the historic structures of merit, sites of merit. Something to keep in mind, I went through and I cross-referenced attachment A and attachment C. So attachment A does not, it has 6 items on it that aren't included in attachment C. Those 6 items, looks like they're the items that have now been turned into landmarks. And so that's been essentially cleared out on item C, on attachment C. Because I was like confused on what's going on. Attachment C has 2 new items on it that are actually, I thought, would have been on the previous one, that weren't on attachment A. They're on attachment C. Sorry. No, just kidding. Attachment A has 23, the James Moore House, and attachment number 32, Michael Hugh Clark House. And I thought that Michael Hugh Clark House, I know the residents of that. I thought that was on an earlier Structures of Merit. So, on attachment C, number 32, Michael Hugh Clark House. That's where, and then 23, James Moore House. I didn't find that on attachment A. I don't know. So I guess the discussion here is, and a couple items, Elise did a beautiful summary on attachment B. I talked to Sherry, the Olive Mill House, a number of years ago was slated for demolition. Every time I'm over in Bryant Street area, I try to drive by and peek and see if it's still there. It's still there.
James Moore House is number 7 on attachment A.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, James Moore House is 7. Okay,
On attachment A.
great, thank you. So the Olive Mill House is there, still there. Sherry tells me that they are still working towards demolishing that. The Olive Mill House is not a landmark, and so therefore, when it first came before the Planning Commission a number of years ago, there was no method or ability for us to oppose it being taken down. However, in talking to the owners at that time and the people who were doing the demolition, there are historical artifacts that still reside within that house, and so they're supposed to call and let me know when they're going to destroy it so that we can poach first. Thank you, Elise, for doing this in-depth list. Okay. So I guess the question is, are we good with this? Do we want to add 5 or, yes, Commissioner McHatton?
Why did it fail not going forward with the city the first time around?
I'm sorry, with my limited history of a year, I'm not aware of what the reasons were.
It failed at that time. So originally, and Darwin's been here for the whole. So originally, it was our understanding that the city council wanted us to define, instead of, there was a newspaper article, this was before I came on, might have been just before Darwin came on, that basically said any house in the Ojai Valley that's over 50 years old is historic and it's got to go before the Historic Preservation Commission. You can still hear that echo off the mountains of the reaction to that article. That was a previous commission that decided that. So the city council, as they were calming down the masses, basically said, hey, it's their fault. HBC, you need to tell us what's important in the valley. And so the Historic Structures of Merit was put together. A very nice presentation was done by Craig Walker. It's actually been done by Craig twice because we've been talking about this for so long. And I believe that then was the basis of the Historic Structures of Merit. I hadn't seen the spreadsheet before. It has fabulous information. Thank you very much, Sherry. But the city has been very reticent to delineate a specific item that can have requirements or impediments attached to it for homeowners. And that's what this was perceived at. Is that correct, Darwin? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Darwin, what is a list of merit? What can we do if somebody wants to buy and tear down something on a list of merit if it does go?
I can read you what the new ordinance says.
Yeah, so prior to the ordinance, nothing could be
Right.
done. Go ahead.
4-8.13, Structures of Merit. The Historic Preservation Commission may recommend to council individual structures of historic architectural, community, or aesthetic merit which have not yet been designated as landmarks, but which are deserving to be added to a council-approved special recognition list. The purpose of such a list shall be to recognize and encourage the protection, enhancement, perpetuation, and use of such structures. The commission may additionally recommend historic structures in the city which have been officially so designated by agencies of the state or federal government to be added to this special recognition list. Number one, the city and the owner of the structure of merit may negotiate placement of an optional city historical plaque. 2, before any permit is issued by the building official for demolition or alteration of a structure designated by council as a structure of merit, the permit application to the building official shall be forwarded to the Historic Preservation Commission for review and comment before issuing the permit. No fee shall be associated with this procedure, and the forwarding for review and comment shall be on the agenda at the next Historic Preservation Commission meeting following the referral of a complete permit application from the building official to the Historic Preservation Commission for said review and comment. 3, no structure designated as a structure of merit shall be subject to demolition by neglect as determined by the building official. Number 4, before any permit is issued for a repair of a structure of merit, the application shall be forwarded to the Community Development Director for review and comment with possible forwarding at the Director's discretion to the Historic Preservation Commission for review and comment.
So, were you going to say something, Darwin? I saw you reaching. Go
See,
right
so
ahead.
that's an improvement of where we were before, and that's in the new ordinance, so we achieved something. So all we're doing here tonight really is reviewing the changes that Louise made and whether to add these to the list, correct?
And at some point to
Recommended.
And to recommend that
ask
to
the
council.
council to approve the list.
Yes,
Correct.
with the addition of these, so.
Correct. It
okay.
is. But let me just give one more bit of history. So, for all the years since the Ojai Valley Inn did what they did, again, we've been there on that fight. We had, in every joint meeting that we held with the city council, we had, Darwin's pet peeve, thank you for doing that, had recommended some kind of protection for the structures of merit, and it had been fought back. Eventually, we put forth a document to the city council that they asked lots of questions the first time. The second time, they ended up referring it to the ad hoc committee. Again, up to that point, the city council seemed not interested in any protections for the historic structures of merit and at all. And so fortunately, going into the ad hoc committee, I was concerned about what might happen there. Fortunately for us, with the participants, with the councilman that was leading us, they were open to suggestions. And with the ad hoc committee, and 3 of us were on that ad hoc committee, were able to make these recommendations with the support of that councilman to the city council. And the improvements as of April 11th, 2019 were agreed to. So it was a long and difficult road, and that's where we're at, where Commissioner McCready just said.
It's a big improvement. It's a
big improvement.
We accomplished something.
Yes.
So,
Um,
yes.
Well, in terms of the proposal to add, I think probably the controversial ones are the cottages among the flowers and the Mallory Way cottages, because they've already been through, decades of review, both by this body and by planning commission and city. And the reason, I don't know. I just wish they had some recognition so they won't get demolished. But I guess a lot of the Mallory Way cottages are slated for demolition, and so the cottages among the flowers are not slated for demolition. But the project is taking so long that they're just falling. They're really getting so dilapidated that I worry that the developer, when he finally does start the project, will say they're not worth saving. That's what I'm afraid of. But I don't know how other people feel about adding it to that list. Those 2.
Do you know the historical import of the cottages among the flowers? Like the historical background?
It's right there. Yep.
Yeah, I take your point, Elise. Yeah, what do we do? I mean, we don't want to have the appearance of spitefulness on a project that could be in the works. I agree with your point that wanting to protect them and by adding them to the list.
Why they weren't on the original list, I don't know, I don't understand, but.
Well, let me make a suggestion that we accept the revisions that Elise has done and the additions minus 5 and 6 and take a look at that next year. And if permit applications go forward, or if they don't go forward, then at that point, why not?
They're both, I know that they're both in consultation with Mr. Becker about both these projects. Now, the city is. So maybe we should leave them off. I agree.
Yeah, so if, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I can make a motion.
Sure.
I make a motion to add the Friends Shell Station, the Hunt Auto Livery, the People's Lumber Company, and the former Andrews Ford dealership to the Structures of Merit list for the city of Ojai.
Second.
Any further discussion? Sherry, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner James?
Yes.
McCready?
Yes?
Quinn?
Yes.
Akins?
Yes.
McCatton?
Yes.
DePoit?
Yes.
Great. Thank
Motion
you.
passes.
I just have a number 15 on the draft. I don't know what the name of that number 15, that's not the L'Auberge restaurant anymore. It's got a different name.
Oh,
It's Nociola.
Yeah.
And the number 17, you could put slash Topa Brewery or change it to Topa Brewery. Isn't that what it's called?
Yes, I believe you're right.
Huh? Topa
I believe
Brewery?
you're right.
I actually have a question too about number 31. And I think it says current owner and then his phone number. If that's a phone number, I don't think it should be on
Are
there.
you on the draft or the original?
I'm on
are you on number 30?
it's the Tippett's Dental Office.
Oh, yeah.
A or C?
C.
Well, it's not the same on either one, but it's a different number. So the first one, which is A.
Oh, I see.
Well, the attachment C is what we're submitting, so.
Yeah.
Well, it still says the phone number on it.
On Tibbet, what number is it on?
Let me look.
On C, it's 30.
Okay, I'll take that.
And Robert needs to get a T to his Winfield.
Because when this goes to city council, all the owners have to be notified.
Correct.
Okay. And then
So-
I have one further question, just for my information. On the telephone building, what is its use now? It's not on here.
It's a telephone
It's
bill.
a switching station.
It is?
An unmanned switching station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. However, yeah, at the time,
That could be AT&T.
it was where everybody paid their phone bill.
Number 21, AT&T.
Now,
Chair Akins, just wanted to clarify that that motion with the maker and seconder included the recommendation to forward the list to city council, because that was not clearly stated in the motion.
That should be another motion, I think.
Okay.
Items 1 through 4 on the list.
Right, Commissioner DePoit stated that that was not part of her motion.
so the
to add
motion
to
was
list.
only to approve the list as
Correct.
adjusted, not to forward it to the city council.
Another number 22 on the list,
22, the Ojai Ice Plant.
is that the same thing as the one that's getting demoed?
No.
Or
Getting
different? Well, that's Fox Street.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me, just making
Fox
sure.
Street, something on Fox
But
Street?
it says 310 South Fox.
The Ojai Ice Plant is on the left all the way down at the
Got
very
it.
end.
Okay, never mind.
And there were some modifications that were done to it a number of years ago, but it wasn't going to
Sure that
affect.
Demo, the one slated for demo isn't on this one.
Oh, no, you're thinking of the one that's all the way up towards Ojai Avenue, I think.
The one on Pearl.
No, Pearl's a whole different one.
So
I'm
should
making
that,
sure it's not
should
on
that
here.
get put back on here then if it's not demoed yet?
No,
What,
no,
Pearl House?
it's already been approved.
I don't know if it's,
Oh, it's been approved?
yeah, they just haven't finished their paperwork.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other
Alright.
corrections, you could let me know.
So we need a vote then on the motion to adjust that. Did we take a vote? I don't,
We already did that.
Not to recommend to
Okay.
take it to council.
yeah, when do I want to bite that?
I'll-
I mean, they approved it. for us
I'd
to
like
do
to
it,
make a
so.
motion send this to
There you go, Elise.
this, to.
Hey,
for
look who
approval by
joined us.
council.
Look who snuck in. It's all Mr. Vega's fault.
I'll
Whatever we
second.
do from here on out.
Okay,
Pardon
thank
me?
you.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner James? Commissioner McCready?
Yes?
Commissioner Quinn?
Yes?
Akins?
Yes.
McHatton?
Yes.
DePoit?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, my God. Welcome, City Manager Vega. Wow. Item number 5, Downtown Historic District. Staff report. Mr. Vega, do you have any staff reports on this item? No?
Can I actually say one thing real quick?
Please.
Sorry, I'm late. But I actually wanted to make sure to come in today because hopefully I'm not saying anything not known, but I understand it's the last meeting of a commissioner.
It is.
Okay, and so I wanted to come in. It's a good reminder to say thank you, all of you, for the service you do. And, I don't know that the public realizes how much time and effort you put into it. And I know the council appreciates it, the public appreciates it, and staff appreciates it. But especially when you're leaving, I wanted to say thank you for your service to the city and that we will miss you. Yeah, so I don't want to distract, but just wanted to say thank you.
I'd stick around if I were you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Just a suggestion. So I'm going to run out to the car real quick. Do we have an update then on this? Here's one question I have. So currently, we have 2 ad hoc committees made up of 3 individuals and 2 individuals. One of the individuals on the research committee, who totally outweighs that other lazy guy on the left, is leaving to go off to Prescott, Arizona. We'll talk about that in a minute. My question is there, and this is just a thought, there's 3 individuals on education and on outreach. Is there one of those individuals who not necessarily wants to be on the ad hoc committee, therefore enabling us to create one ad hoc committee where we can actually talk to ourselves? Just something to think about as I
volunteer.
Oh, okay. No. But I'm just, we could talk. We could make progress. Because, but doing it, maybe I'll move to Prescott and we'll leave Elise here. She can
Do you
do
have to
it.
make a motion to change your ad hoc to one ad hoc?
I believe we can. What's a serial meeting?
They're going to create.
No, it wouldn't be if we only have 3 members on the ad hoc.
But we
Wait.
had-
Mr. Vega.
So
Okay.
I was conferring with Mr. Vega. Under the Brown Act, you cannot have a quorum basically discussing things. So while you're not sitting on the same ad hoc committee, you're conveying information amongst a quorum that could be
No,
considered deliberations.
Go ahead.
Because Thais sits on both. So
No.
No.
you're only going to do one committee?
None.
We're going to be one committee made up of Gina,
Yes,
myself,
yes.
and Cindy.
3 people, because I said
You'll-
he's looked for
okay.
a volunteer, and because I just became president of the Ojai Festival Women's Committee, my time is kind of rushed. So since they wanted somebody to volunteer, I volunteered.
So then we would only have 3.
Yeah, we could have one ad hoc committee of 3, and those 3
That's
can
correct.
discuss, to your heart's content.
Sweet. I know, now Lisa wants to move back and send me off to Prescott.
No, I may still be willing to help with some of the history of some of the buildings.
And you're more than welcome to do so, but you will no longer be a member of the commission. You will be a public person, so we can talk with you as much as we want. So enjoy Prescott. It's a lovely place. Okay, do we have updates on the ad hoc committee on item number 5?
I have a question. In the minutes of last month, it said that we had requested that we were going to, wanted our map presented to the planning commission. I don't recall that at all. Does anybody recall that?
Thais is in charge for the next 4 minutes.
Her question is, do we remember that we wanted to present this to the planning commission? Anyone?
I don't think we did. I don't think
It was in the minutes.
Mm-mm.
And,
It might be an error, because I know that we talked about how we are far from meeting with anybody, how we're only in a discussion right
It
now. That-
was on, of the last month's minute, the second page here.
2, under informational items, future agenda items.
Second page of the minutes. Of
Wait,
the
what-
minutes.
Of the minutes.
How does 6 fall on page 2?
The minutes from the meeting, previous meeting.
That's right.
I'm looking at,
July 11th. It's page 4.
Oh, sorry.
Page
Page 4. Sorry, folks. I think.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you.
Yeah, because of the design guidelines.
yes, it was from the, not to, right? Because we weren't there yet to, that's why this is included, you have it in here, this thing, where is it? This thing is big.
I'm not still seeing that, still not seeing it.
You mean the design guideline map?
Yes,
To you?
yes,
Okay, I can change the minutes.
yes.
Okay.
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 And then from that guideline, this is what we were talking about last time, that I was working on this.
So what
I
should
tried
it
to-
say?
It was from, we wanted to get we wanted to know what was under different ordinances.
The tentative
Oh,
map
okay.
of-
So-
The tentative map of the design guidelines.
Right. So what
not
I-
of Historic district.
Right. So this is.
Yeah, I
something that-
remember that.
Right, and then we are working on filling in all of these blanks, which I'm going to be working with Sherry, but July.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
But anyway, I wanted to know, your map that you had given me had all these different colors on it, and I wanted to have that be official, that we're all looking at the same thing.
Okay, are we settled now on number 5, and then going forward with the adjusted ad hoc committee? Yes.
Since we just edited the minutes that were previously adopted, maker and seconder, is that okay with you and the consensus of the board?
Great, thank you both. Okay, and so then, Gina, you, myself, and Cindy will get together. Okay, let's see. Item number 6 is future items. I guess we can cross off the Annual Historic Preservation Award.
You can't.
What?
To adopt the resolution as it's prepared.
Which?
It's a resolution you have to adopt.
Oh.
To get them to ratify. So we'll bring back a reso to the next meeting.
Can never, yes, okay,
Sorry.
perfect. No, that's perfect. I think stat, is that how you? Okay, and Ojai Day discussion? Any other future items that,
I'd like to see something on there. I was looking
Please.
at the Ojai, the Santa Barbara Historic Commission. They were having a meet and greet with the teachers of Santa Barbara to kind of just have like a reach out and talk to them about how to teach Santa Barbara history. And it just showed up in my feed, and I just thought I would love to maybe have a discussion about like we have Ojai Day and we have the jail, and whenever I talk about that I'm on the commission, somehow it comes back to, oh, I was in that jail, and it's like, that's the one thing a year. The walks that we do are the museum walks, but what if we did a walk a year? What if we showcased a house a year or a structure? Like, what if we just got together to talk about every quarter season, we had one function that we just reached out to the community in to just let people know more about us. I know that there's a certain grade, of course, I don't know, it's second grade, that you learn about your city, and a lot of schools take tours and they walk around. It'd be nice if we communicated with the teachers and we showed them what is historic, and then even through middle school and high school. I mean, we're an aging body of people interested in historic preservation. How we're going to how the preservation of Ojai is going to continue, and preservation of everywhere is including young people. And so I was just thinking if we did some sort of discussion on a future agenda item where we could talk about ideas to maybe do a quarterly reach out. It doesn't have to be something big, it's just something where it becomes something that we do.
I think that's great.
Semi-annual, but otherwise it's great.
Okay, and speaking about the Ojai Jail, I'm also pleased to announce, and it's been approved by City Manager Vega, that Elise has volunteered to prepare a brochure for the Ojai Jail. So when people ask us all those tough questions, we don't have to go, what's the answer?
We'll try to get it done before Ojai Day.
Anyway, thank you, Elise. I also want to thank Elise for the updates on the landmark spreadsheet. She updated those, and Sherry got those right up onto the city website. So thank you both for that. Anything else?
I want to know if I can change my vote on the, if it's too late to change my vote on the annual history award, from a no to an abstain. Is that possible?
From a no to an abstain?
On the history awards. It's
Oh,
not
on-
that
on-
I-
on-
It's not that I
Oh, on the
don't-
two for these?
Yeah, it's not that I don't think they deserve it. I just don't, I told you my reasons, so I
Okay,
wondered if,
no,
is it okay to change my
Let me
vote?
check with the powers that be over there. Can you change a vote once it's taken place? Before the meeting ends? Mr. Vega? Attorney Vega?
I'm looking at how the votes were cast, because you can,
So that's the one she's trying to go from a no to an
so
abstain.
6-1.
Yeah, it's not going to affect the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, there's minimal risk with it. So, yeah, yes, we will note that in the records.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Yeah, we'll call Matt so he can charge us $500 for that answer when we get it free from this attorney. I'm always for that. Okay, Sherry, could you help me out on the next part? I think is there anything else to do? Okay, yes.
Well, I'd like to, if there, I'd just like to say that I will not be here at next month's meeting, so I'd like to just give that official. And then I know I maybe can talk to you before I go on my trip so that when this resolution is presented, that I've whittled down the other thing. Would that be okay? That would be fine. Okay, great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other items of business? Okay, closed, don't move. Nice try. It'll be worth your wait. Trust me. Yes, because we don't want anybody rushing the chambers. Okay. Okay.